Good morning, everybody. This talk is called Courage, a diamond of many facets, because like a diamond, there are countless ways to look at it. Countless ways. The facets have myriad interconnectedness to character, virtue, self-confidence, conviction, self-awareness, values, and anxiety, fear, and egos. At first, we may think of courage as the big stuff, a little person standing in front of a big tank in Tiananmen Square, or Picasso's Guernica, who has the courage to challenge the atrocities of war, or authors or people who speak up against whatever. And I'm no expert, but where it comes to what I've learned, I'd love to share with you. The word courage, it seems, comes from the Latin coraticum, whose root is cor, in French is cœur, and means heart. All right? And so it literally means to be comfortable in your heart space. And in one of its earliest forms, the word courage meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. So I suppose we could say that somebody with courage is somebody who is in touch with and follows their heart. And I think from my experience in looking at this, there may be three categories: saying no, saying yes, staying still. So I'm going to share three stories with you to hopefully illustrate and kind of provoke your interest in this whole idea. It's summer. Today's the day. Just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, Charlotte and I are both executive coaches, are about to actually test this ropes course that we designed for business people. What's a ropes course? A ropes course is an obstacle course, usually in the woods, sometimes in the mountains, that tests people's ability to mentally figure out how to do some activities, physical, and physically to be able to do them. We built this course for people to bring their teams out of the office into the world of physical connectedness and working with teams and themselves, to challenge them mentally and physically so that they could learn leadership skills and team building skills. So bringing them back to the offices, they would have increased courage, more self-esteem, and self-confidence. Charlotte invited about 12 of her friends locally, because I didn't live down there, to help us run through the course to ensure that the 4 activities that we set up were actually safe and worked. In the woods, we had swinging tires, we had a wall to climb, we had a trust fall platform. Those of you who want to know what a trust fall platform is, you stand on a platform about 10 feet off the ground, people are behind you, waiting to catch you, and you fall backwards onto this mattress of people, if you will, their hands. And the 4th challenge, the pièce de résistance, the reward for all the efforts of the 3 previous activities, was the zip line. So to help you imagine it, picture the beginning of it. A rope ladder hung 60 feet along a tree, rope meaning it moves, not a stiff ladder, okay, from like about a 70-foot tree, at the top of which the rope ladder, there is a small platform, which you stand on, and then you are to walk along a balance beam of 2 feet wide to a marine net, you know, the ones that Marines climb, huh? And then when you got up to the platform with the marine net, you'd hook your vest to the wire and then zip down the line to be greeted by cheers of your fellow participants. I was to go first because I was one of the planners. I loved all 3 prior challenges. They were actually fun. Scaling the walls, tire swinging, trust falls, piece of cake, till I got to the tree. I could feel my body fill with adrenaline, and I wanted it to go well and, frankly, look good. On the ground, I listened to the instructions again. Strap yourself into this rock climbing harness, then hook clasps of 2 ropes onto your harness vest that are going to be held by the team that will be below you, and they are also called people who are belayed to you, and for the whole activity, and then climb up the tree, stand on the platform, and then do what I had described to you before. Walk across the 2-foot wide thing, go on the marine net, and jump off the platform and enjoy the ride all the way down. Easy. Oh, wait. Don't forget, you first have to do a practice fall. A fall on purpose. So to feel what it feels like. So once steady on the tree platform, jump off, and your team below will stop the fall and let you down slowly. I go for it. Deep breath, harness up, I climb up. 60 feet above everyone, I look down at my 2 saviors below, their eyes glued to mine, and Charlotte, her smile and her dark curly hair, I know her. The other guy, lanky, sandy-haired, thin man, just met him, not so familiar with him. Finally, I stand on the platform and all goes blank. Flashing before me instead are my 2 teenage daughters at home on Long Island with their single mom possibly coming home with crutches and a broken leg. Purposely fall and do it again? I must do it. After all, my reputation's at stake. I can't let Charlotte down. And so with all my courage, I step off the edge, feel the drop as planned, and about 30 so feet, I'm now dangling, heart pounding as my team indeed slowly lets me down as my feet blessedly brush and then finally touch the ground. Cheers break out, relieved, but wrestling internally. Scared to disappoint. I can't say no, I'll feel ashamed. I'll mess it up for Charlotte. I'll be seen as a chicken, a cop-out. My self-image and ego panicked. I have 2 kids at home. They depend on me. So does Charlotte. If I say no, will I yet again feel like an outsider? A theme of a lifetime? 2. Oh, yes. The second story. We're sitting at lunch, Barbara and I. You wouldn't know this small, thin, short, white, cropped-haired lady was the head of a ex-prisoner re-entry program in Sarasota. And she said to me as we were finishing our lunch, "Gee, Judy, would you like to start up a support group for these folks so when they come back in, they'll have other people to connect with and then learn some social skills?" I said, "Wow, yeah, I'd love to do that. Thank you so much." And then those old butterflies started. As I put my coffee down, I said to her, "No, I'm not going to say anything to her." I said to her, "No, I'm not." "Oh, wait, Barbara, I think I'm nervous." Now, you don't normally say that to the person who's just interviewed you. "I think I'm nervous." I would have trained all my clients not to do that, but she was a terrific gal, and I figured she would soothe me and tell me, it's okay and all the rest. She didn't say that. What do you think she said? She said, "I think you should tell everybody the first day that you're nervous." I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I think it would be good for them to know that you're also scared, and that would make them feel like, okay." No way, I said to myself. show fear to these people? I'm supposed to be the strong leader. How can I show weakness the first day? You'll notice both stories haven't an ending yet, on purpose. The third story and last one is, we had just buried my dad in New York, and I flew down with my mom to her home on Siesta Key in Sarasota, Florida. As soon as we arrived at the house, she announces, let's go to the beach. We silently change into shorts, and wordless still, we cross the dirt path that separates our house from the beach and the Gulf of Mexico. We set our sandals on the sand, a ritual of decades, and as soon as she's barefoot, with the strength of purpose, she heads straight to the water. I choose to let her go. I say to myself, she needs quiet time, she needs to be by herself. But she doesn't stop walking into the water. I watch her red shorts and yellow top get smaller as she walks away, and then I notice the edge of her red shorts getting darker and darker with each step westward, water and color climbing up her body. I turn to stone and I decide I'm going to wait. Oh my God, she's going to walk to Mexico. My heart pounds, breath sharp and short. I have to run and rescue her. Before I tell you the ends of each of the stories, let me first clarify a distinction between courage and bravery. Bravery seems to be the quality of having the guts to do what needs to be done, even if it means taking risks or facing danger head on, where courage is the strength of character, mental or ethical power that enables one to act confidently and persistently, even when faced with adversity, uncertainty, or pain. Bravery is the ability to confront danger or pain without showing fear, where courage is the ability to confront fear, danger, uncertainty, with no guarantee of success. Now, there are going to be people who will say, well, I think it's this, and I think it's that, and this is that, and it's interchangeable, and that's why I call it courage, a diamond with many facets. So we could look at courage and say, courage is the quality of mind and spirit that enables us to face difficulty, despite fear. The ability to do something that frightens us or act in accordance with our beliefs, especially in spite of criticism. The internal strength in the face of pain or grief. The moral muscle to speak out against injustice when no one else will. And the firmness of our minds and wills in the face of danger or extreme difficulty. And Confucius added another piece to this. He said, being deeply loved gives you strength, and loving deeply gives you courage. So now we're connected to something else, are we not? Relationships. So why is courage so important? Because it allows us to act on our values rather than our impulses. Our values rather than our impulses. Aristotle's 4 virtues are prejudice. I say that again. Aristotle's first 4 virtues are prudence, justice, temperance, and courage. And he calls courage a virtue at the mean, meaning the middle, between cowardice and recklessness. He believed that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the ability to act rightly in the face of fear. That notion of in between cowardice and recklessness seems really appropriate in our times now, does it not? So what types of courage are there? Well, some people through research came up with things that I categorized as the 4 categories. Physical courage, moral courage, emotional courage, and intellectual courage. Physical courage is the ability to face danger, pain, or physical challenges without fear or hesitation. It's often associated with what? You think of physical courage. Soldiers, firefighters, athletes, explorers who risk their lives and health for a cause or a goal. Moral courage, well, that's the ability to stand up for what's right and ethical or just, even if it means going against the majority, authority, or popular opinion. It's often associated with activists, whistleblowers, reformers, or dissidents who challenge. Emotional courage is the ability to express one's feelings, emotions, or vulnerabilities honestly and authentically, even if it means what? Rejection, ridicule, or criticism. It's often associated with artists, writers, speakers, leaders who share their personal stories, and it's also when we own our own wrongdoing. And intellectual courage is the ability to question one's own belief, our assumptions and opinions, and to seek out new perspectives, not to hold on so tightly to something. Courageous to either let it go or just hold it over here. And this is associated with scientists and philosophers, educators, or learners who explore the unknown. So you may wonder, is this thing courage like innate, or can you learn it, or? Well, according to some sources, so is another facet, courage is not a given and innate character strength, but a skill that can be learned and developed. And it can be cultivated by identifying and managing fears, taking calculated risks, gathering information, and exposing ourselves to challenging situations repeatedly. Other experts suggest that courage also has some innate or genetic components, such as our temperament or personality or biological responses to stress. For example, some of us may have a higher tolerance of pain or uncertainty than others, or may have a stronger sense of self-efficacy or optimism that helps them cope with fear. And some of us may have role models or mentors who've inspired us to be courageous. And sometimes we can just see something and say, wow, maybe I could do that. Therefore, we can say that courage is a combination of both learned and innate facets, and that different people may have different levels and types of courage depending on their circumstances and experiences. It's not a fixed trait, and it's a matter of who decides. In our daily lives, courage happens much more often on smaller scale than standing in front of a tank in Tiananmen Square. Courageous acts including initiating something, or staying present in a hard conversation, or admitting you don't know, or loving fully, which means showing vulnerability, asking for help, healing from trauma, saying, I love you, I need you, I miss you, sitting in stillness, trying a new art class, continuing when you want to quit. And what does it sound like? Well, sometimes it sounds like, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was wrong. Or saying no to our children. Or, in one case, instead of being upset and angry that the medical technician isn't speaking loud enough and you can't understand what he's asking you to do and scared to death of speaking up, daring to let him know what you need on the outset and say, I'm hard of hearing, so would you please speak more slowly and louder? It can help him. So, where is ego in all of this? Probably everywhere. Ego can be a source of courage when we use it to motivate ourselves to take risks and overcome fears. However, it can be problematic when it becomes too inflated and cause us to overestimate our abilities and underestimate the risks involved in the situation. We know a few people who are like that, public people. Courage can also affect our egos the other way by increasing our sense of self-worth and self-esteem. Confidence, we overcome our fears and take risks or acknowledge the fears and do it anyway, and we often feel more confident and are more likely to take on new challenges in the future. I like this saying. Someone said, "The opposite of courage is not cowardice. It's conformity. Even a dead fish can go with the flow." Some say courage is not the absence of fear, but the absence of self, ego. And Jerry Seinfeld, just to lighten this for a bit, those of you who know his famous line that more people are afraid of public speaking than dying. So it is safer to be in the box than to deliver the eulogy. So if fear is often the obstacle to opportunities, what are some of the fears? Think about it. What are some of your fears? I'm not going to ask you, but what are some of your fears that stop you? Is it fear of confrontation, of speaking up, of letting go, of change, of embarrassment, of really fully apologizing, or of challenging long-held restricting beliefs about ourselves? On the other hand, staying fearful can have disadvantages, right? Without courage, we may miss out on opportunities, avoid challenges, settle for less, or give up too easily. Not being courageous can also affect our self-esteem, relationships, and our happiness. It helps us grow and learn and overcome obstacles, and it also inspires others to do the same. So let's look at story number 1. Remember the ropes course story? To climb or not to climb? What do you think I said when I had done my trust fallen down on the ground? I said no. My family overweighed everything. My self-image, my ego, my everything. I was now more afraid of saying no than anything else. So I had to break my self-image of superwoman, and though petrified and shaking, I say to the people there, the 13 others, I'm really scared to tell you this. I really want to do it, but I'm not. And my biggest fear is letting you down. I was so convinced that everyone would turn their emotional backs to me, I can't begin to describe to you. And that Charlotte and I would end right there. And how wrong I was. I didn't feel horrified and humiliated, but instead felt hugs and hoorays. My ears filled with voices. That's wonderful. You're amazing. You learned what you came here to learn. You had the courage to say no, and that gives us courage too. So my greatest fear, I did it anyway, and the lesson has stayed with me ever since. So sometimes a one-time no or yes can make all the difference for you, ourselves, others. There's a book called The Courage Quotient, written by Robert Biswas-Diener, and he says that courage contains 2 primary internal elements, or facets: the willingness to act or not act, and the ability to control fear. So there are a couple of folks, some people like little sayings that they can put in their refrigerators or remember, so I'm going to share some with you. Courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. Who said that? John Wayne. Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities because it has been said the quality which guarantees all others. Winston Churchill. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I'll try again tomorrow. Mary Rodmacher. And Lao Tzu says, from caring comes courage. You may wonder, well, how do I build my courage? What do? Reflect on my life and think about, well, let us say that all of us here together know that we all have courage. Why? Because we all lived through 3 years of pandemic. And if you don't think every day and every decision and every move we make didn't require some courage, then you're not paying attention to how courageous you all are. So it may be, though, that we're afraid of something. It may be what you say to yourself, you're afraid. So I share with you, many of you may know this, that fear is an acronym for 4 words. F-E-A-R. False evidence appearing real. So the next time we're afraid, we may want to check whether or not we're making this up in our minds, or it's based on ego or deep belief systems or whatever. But we can build our courage. We can say different things to ourselves. We can say, well, what happens if it works? What if it goes right? What if it might be fun? What if what I feel as fear is excitement? I don't know. And of course, one cannot talk about courage or fear without reminding ourselves of President Roosevelt in his inaugural address says, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And I want to know who decides what is or is not courageous. Well, I mean, we can easily imagine somebody saying, that was courageous. Another person said, that was insane. And the person who did it said, it's what I thought was best. That's what I did. And I feel it's courageous. Courage, I submit, is determined by the one who thinks it or speaks it. What you see as courageous says everything about you, but not necessarily about the person who took the action. Then courage is in the eyes of the beholder, no? Virginia Satir, a renowned family therapist with whom I had the pleasure of studying for some time, believed that most people's problems were not being fully authentic. So when people said yes when they meant no, and no when they meant yes. So she had this idea that everybody should have a medallion on their chest, and on the front it said, yes, that's a great idea. I think I can do that. Thank you so much, yeah. And then on the other side, flip it saying, no, this is not going to work for me today, and be authentic about it. There lies the courage. It takes willingness to see what's really happening and to make or take a stand and withstand the urge to alleviate our own discomfort without respecting the needs and comfort of others. It takes courage to see differently, to heal ourselves, to reach out beyond the familiar, and to be quiet. Ask for what we need. Sit still. Be there for others. Say, I'm sorry. Additionally, the perception of courage can be influenced by cultural and societal norms, no? What's considered courageous in one culture may not be viewed the same in another culture. For example, in some it may be considered courageous to speak up, and in others, not at all. Not at all. Again, I submit courage can only be measured by the person doing it, and whatever effort and energy is required to do it, courage is defined by the speaker. So remember Barbara and I sitting at lunch with the job offer? So the first night, the people walk in and sit down. We had about 10 people. Barbara was in the room. And everybody introduces themselves. And I introduced myself first. Well, Barbara didn't first. And explained what the group was going to be like and whatever. And then the person to my right was the last person to go. We'll call him Rob. And I remember what Barbara said. And after I had listened to all the other people in the room, gathering, you might say, courage, I said, you know, Barbara suggested that I share something with you that I was afraid to, but I'm ready to do now. And they all looked at me and said, I was really nervous about being with you guys for the first time. I'm no longer nervous, but I got to tell you, I was really, kind of nervous. And Barbara said I should share that with you. And with that, Rob, we're in a circle, he grabs my hand, his left hand to my right, and holds on. I didn't move. And he said, Judy, thank you for telling us you were nervous. I now trust you. And we ran a group that was wonderful for an entire year because for some reason, showing vulnerability makes people feel okay, safe, not the leader I thought I was supposed to be in that room. So, trusting Barbara, trusting the group, I gathered the courage, and they seemed to trust me. So by now you may be wondering, what are some ways I can develop my own? Well, first you need to know what your values are and act on them. Courage is not just about doing what's risky, it's also about what's doing right and meaningful for you. And when you clarify your values and align them with your actions, you can build a sense of purpose and integrity that can motivate you to be courageous. Move out of your comfort zone. Courage to grow stronger is like a muscle that needs to exercise regularly. Expose yourself to new situations, speaking up for yourself, trying something new can expand the comfort zone. Learn from others who inspire you. Courage is contagious and can be influenced by people around you, not on purpose, just by being there. By observing and learning from others who demonstrate courage in different ways, your own courageous actions can appear. And what about reflecting on your own experiences, your own achievements? Enjoy them and revel in them. We do need to face our fears and insecurities. We do need to stand up to what we believe in. It's been good to learn how to admit our mistakes and apologize sincerely, express our emotions honestly and forthrightly, and forgive ourselves and others. And just as a note for older folks, courage is not just for the young and adventuresome. As a matter of fact, I think it's even more courageous to age and to be able to deal with the surprises and the changes and the limitations that we are subjected to naturally nonetheless. So it's important to remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the ability to act despite it. So there's a third story remaining, right? I'm on the beach. She's headed to Mexico. Standing still, I was like what Aristotle talked about, acting on my values rather than my customary rescuing impulses. I deferred to her needs, not mine. I decided to stand still and wait. And she finally turned around, and I ran to her, and we hugged. I was scared, Mom. Did you think I'd walk to Mexico? Yeah. Why would I? You're here. We put our sandals on and walked back home. So I'm reminded of what Maya Angelou said, a woman who wrote a lot about courage. It's the most important of all virtues because without courage you can't practice any other virtue consistently. You can practice any virtue erratically, but nothing consistently without courage. And I would like to read, as we finish, I suppose, from my favorite poet, David White, out of this book called Consolations. I got a chance to work with him way many years ago, and he's just an important guy. And he says, courage is the measure of our heartfelt participation with life, with another, a community, a future. To be courageous is not necessarily to go anywhere or do anything except to make conscious those things we already feel deeply and then live through the unending vulnerabilities of those consequences. To be courageous is to seat our feelings deep in the body and the world and to live up to and into the necessities of relationships that already exist. The French philosopher Camus used to tell himself quietly to live to the point of tears, not as a call for maudlin sentimentality, but as an invitation to the deep privilege of belonging. And the way of belonging affects us, shapes us, breaks our heart at a fundamental level. Courage is what love looks like when tested by the simple, everyday necessities of being alive. So courage to me is a diamond with many facets.